Welcome to our deep dive into Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. When I think about this book, I don't just think about a fishing story. I think about resilience, perseverance, and this incredible back and forth between humanity and nature.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Hemingway was a master of saying so much with so few words, and The Old Man and the Sea is a prime example of that. We're going to have to read between the lines, picking up on those subtle clues and powerful symbolism.
Okay, let's jump right in. We meet Santiago, this Cuban fisherman who hasn't caught a fish in 84 days. That's got to mess with your head, right? I can't imagine going that long without any luck.
It's not just bad luck, though, is it? The word Hemingway uses is salao, which carries a deeper meaning. It's almost like being cursed, ostracized by the community.
Yeah.
You can feel the weight of that word, the despair it brings.
And yet Hemingway describes Santiago's eyes as cheerful and undefeated. That seems like a contradiction. How can someone be considered salao and still have that spark in their eyes?
That's the beauty of Hemingway's writing. He doesn't spell everything out for us. He leaves room for interpretation for us to grapple with these complexities.
And there's Manolin, the young boy who looks up to Santiago. They have this beautiful relationship, almost like father and son. It makes you think about the importance of mentorship, of having someone who believes in you, even when the world doubts you.
Absolutely. Their bond is a testament to the enduring power of human connection. Even though Manolin is forced to fish with another boat because his father thinks Santiago is unlucky, he never loses faith in the old man. He still brings him food, cares for him, and hangs on to his every word.
I love that their conversations happen on the terrace.
Yeah.
It's like this gathering place for the fishermen. You can almost smell the salt air, hear the waves crashing. It's such a vivid setting.
Hemingway doesn't just tell us about the setting, he immerses us in it. You can practically feel the sun on your skin, smell the fish drying on the docks. It's almost like another character in the story, adding this layer of intensity and realism.
Okay, so we've got this unlucky yet determined old man, a loyal boy, and a setting that's both beautiful and harsh. Where do we go from here?
This is where Hemingway's brilliance as a writer really shines. Instead of explicitly telling us about Santiago's philosophy, he reveals it through the old man's actions, his inner thoughts.
Like that line, every day is a new day. It's so simple, yet so profound. No matter how bad yesterday was, there's always a chance to start fresh.
Exactly. It speaks to Santiago's unwavering optimism, his refusal to be defeated by past failures. Even after 84 days without a catch, he still believes that tomorrow could be different.
And then there's that other line that really stuck with me. I would rather be exact than when luck comes, you are ready. This isn't just about fishing, it's about life, right?
Yeah.
You have to prepare yourself, hone your skills, so that when opportunity knocks, you're ready to seize it.
Precisely. Santiago understands that luck isn't just some random force. It's about being prepared, being in the right place at the right time with the right skills.
It makes you think about your own life, your own goals. Are you putting in the work, the dedication to be ready when your luck arrives?
And then, of course, we have that powerful statement that really gets to the heart of the book. Man is not made for defeat. A man can be destroyed, but not defeated. It's like Hemingway is giving us a mantra for life.
It's a powerful reminder that even when things are tough, we have the strength to keep going, to never give up on ourselves.
Exactly. It's about finding that inner resilience, that indomitable spirit that allows us to rise above challenges even when we feel broken.
Then comes the marlin. The wait is over. The anticipation builds, and bam,
Yeah.
this massive fish hits the line.
You know that marlin isn't just a fish, it's a symbol, and it's key to understanding the deeper meaning of the story.
I'm all ears. What does it symbolize? I mean, he's been waiting so long for this, and when it finally happens, you realize this is no ordinary catch.
That's right. It's bigger than the skiff, powerful, magnificent. Think about what that struggle, that epic battle could represent in a broader sense. It's about the human spirit, pushed to its absolute limit, the will to survive, to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
And the way Hemingway describes the marlin, it's like a work of art. The size, the beauty, the power. Yeah. You get a sense of awe and respect, even as you understand that Santiago is fighting for his life.
There's a duality there, isn't there? This admiration, even love for this magnificent creature, but also the understanding that this is a fight for survival.
And he even says to the marlin, "Fish, I love you and respect you very much, but I will kill you dead before this day ends." It's such a raw, honest statement. He respects the fish, but he also knows he has to do what he has to do.
It really gets to the heart of the complex relationship between humanity and nature, doesn't it? This push and pull, this respect and need.
It's like reading about a prize fight, only it's man versus nature. And it's not just the marlin he's fighting, right? He's battling the sun, the exhaustion, his own aging body.
You're starting to see the layers of the story, the different levels of conflict. We often think of the old man in the sea as man versus nature, but it's also about Santiago's internal struggle, his fight against his own doubts and limitations.
He keeps repeating this phrase, "I wish I had the boy." It breaks my heart every time I read it. He's out there alone, pushing himself to the limit, and all he wants is that connection, that support.
It's a reminder of the human need for connection, for companionship. Even the strongest among us crave that sense of belonging, that shared experience.
There's another line where he says, "If you do not sleep, you might become unclear in the head." He's worried about losing his sanity, his grip on reality.
He's facing so many challenges. Physical exhaustion, hunger, thirst, and now this fear of losing his mental clarity. He's fighting on so many fronts.
And you see this element of faith, too. Even though he says he's not religious, he prays, he bargains with God. It seems like everyone, even the toughest skeptics, reach out for something bigger than themselves in times of crisis.
It reveals the depth of his character, his vulnerability. Even in his doubt, he seeks solace and strength from a higher power.
Just when you think things can't get any worse, the sharks show up. I mean, talk about bad luck. He finally conquers the marlin and then, bam, a whole new level of challenge appears.
It's almost Shakespearean, isn't it? This sense of fate, of inevitability.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
His knife breaks, he's left with just a club, and the sounds Hemingway doesn't shy away from the gruesome details. You can hear the sharks tearing at the marlin, feel Santiago's desperation.
And here we see another layer of symbolism.
Right.
What do those sharks represent?
Well, on the surface, they're just predators, but I get the feeling there's something more.
Think about it this way. They represent the forces beyond our control. The things in life that can come along and snatch away our victories no matter how hard we fought. You can do everything right, achieve something incredible, and then bam, life throws you a curveball.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
He finally gets this magnificent fish, and then nature, in the form of these sharks, comes along and takes it away from him.
But even in this moment of seemingly inevitable defeat, something remarkable happens. Santiago never gives up fighting.
He keeps fighting even though he is exhausted, wounded, and outnumbered.
He faces each shark with a ferocity that's both heartbreaking and inspiring. It's a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure, to never surrender, even when the odds are stacked against us.
So he returns to the village with only the marlin's skeleton. It's a victory and a defeat, all at the same time.
That image of the skeleton is so powerful, so loaded with meaning. It speaks to the ephemeral nature of triumph, the fleeting nature of victory.
They measure the skeleton. It's 18 feet long. I mean, you can imagine the awe of the other fishermen.
They're stunned, right? The ones who called him Salau, doubted his abilities, are now confronted with this undeniable proof of his skill and strength.
And Manolin is there, as always, offering comfort and care. Their bond is unwavering.
It's a beautiful moment of humanity amidst the harsh realities of life. It speaks to the importance of loyalty, of having someone who stands by you no matter what.
Then comes that final line, "I went out too far." It's such a simple statement, but it's loaded with so much meaning. What do you think Hemingway is trying to tell us with that ending?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's deliberately ambiguous, leaving the interpretation up to the reader. Did Santiago push himself too far, both physically and mentally? Is there a sense of regret of realizing the cost of his ambition?
Or is it something else entirely? Maybe a sense of acceptance, of coming to terms with the limits of human endeavor.
We're going to have to dive a little deeper to unpack all the potential meanings of that ending.
Yeah, that ending. It really makes you think, I went out too far. It's like Hemingway is giving us a puzzle to figure out.
It does. There are just so many ways to see it. On the one hand, Santiago pulls off something amazing. He catches this incredible fish, shows his skill, his strength. But then he comes back, broken, empty-handed. So was it worth it? Did he go too far?
That's the question. And I think it's a question we all have to face in our own lives. What are we willing to give up to reach our goals? When does ambition cross the line and become dangerous? It's like there's this fine line between not giving up and being reckless. And Santiago seems to be right on that line, pushing himself to the limit.
Well, and still there's also a sense of peace, even pride when he comes back. He doesn't come back defeated. He comes back with a story with proof that he fought the marlin. The other fishermen, they may not fully understand what he went through, but they're still amazed by how big that skeleton is.
And Manolin, he never doubted Santiago, not for a second. He's there to help him, to remind him that he isn't alone.
That relationship, it's a light of hope in the story. It's a reminder that even when we feel like we've gone too far, there are people who love us, who believe in us, who will help us put the pieces back together.
So if we step back and look at the big picture, what is Hemingway trying to say about resilience? It can't just be about pushing yourself to the breaking point no matter what.
Right. I think Hemingway is saying that true resilience isn't just about how much your body can take. It's about mental and emotional strength, too. It's about facing those dark times, those doubts and fears, and finding a way to move on. It's about having the courage to see your own limits, to admit when you've gone too far.
So it's not about never failing, never having setbacks. It's about how you react to those setbacks, how you get back up and keep going.
Exactly. And you see that in the story. Santiago goes through so much physical pain, hunger, thirst, loneliness, but he never gives in to despair. He never loses his respect for the marlin or the sea.
And he keeps a sense of humor. He talks to the fish, the birds, even his own hands. It's almost like he's finding ways to stay connected, to stay sane when he's all alone.
That humor, that ability to find some light in the dark, it's part of what makes Santiago such a great character. He has flaws, he's vulnerable, but he never loses his humanity.
Those moments where he doubts himself, where he wishes he hadn't gone out so far, where he misses the boy, they make him feel so real. He's not some superhero. He's a regular person struggling with real feelings.
And that's what makes his resilience even more amazing. It's not easy, it's a fight. He has to dig deep, find that strength inside to keep going, even when every part of him wants to give up.
This leads to an interesting point. You mentioned earlier that the marlin is a symbol. Can you talk more about that? What does it stand for, and how does it connect to this idea of resilience?
That's a great question. The marlin, in a lot of ways, it's like the biggest challenge, the ultimate test of Santiago's skill and will, but it's also something bigger, the pursuit of a meaningful goal, the pursuit something that makes us go beyond our comfort zones.
So we all have our own marlins in a way.
Exactly. What are the challenges you face in your own life? What goals, what dreams seem almost impossible? What things make you really dig deep to find that resilience inside you?
For some people, it might be something with work, a creative project, or even just getting through a rough patch.
Exactly. And just like Santiago, we might run into problems, we might feel like we're going too far, but it's in those tough moments that we learn how strong we really are.
Talking about those tough moments, there's this image of lions that Santiago dreams about. I always wondered what they mean.
It's an interesting detail, right? Remember when Santiago was younger, he was an arm wrestling champion known as the Champion. He even beat a guy from Cienfuegos in a legendary match that went on for a whole day and night.
So even though he's old and people think he's Salau, now he still has that memory of strength, of winning inside him.
Exactly. The lions, they could represent that raw strength, that fire that's still burning in him.
It's like a reminder that even when we feel weak or defeated, there's still a part of us that remembers our power, what we can achieve.
And it's that memory, that strength inside that can help us handle even the hardest challenges.
I also like how Hemingway contrasts Santiago's quiet dignity with how shallow some of the other fishermen are. They only care about luck, about how things look, about how much money the fish is worth.
It's a subtle way of criticizing a materialistic way of thinking, isn't it? Santiago isn't driven by money or fame. He's driven by something deeper, a need to test himself against nature, against his own limits. He knows that real satisfaction comes from the journey, from the struggle, not just the result.
And that brings us back to that big question.
Yeah.
What does going too far mean? It's not just about how far he went out on the sea, right?
It's about pushing ourselves past what we think we can do, both physically and mentally. It's about going into the unknown, risking failure, and in the end, figuring out who we are and what we're capable of.
So maybe going too far isn't always a bad thing. Maybe it's what we need to grow to discover who we are.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, knowing when to push ourselves and when to stop, when to rest, and when to ask for help.
Okay, let's stop here for a minute and really think about that. We covered a lot, and I think it's good to take a moment to reflect on what stands out to you, the listener. What are your takeaways so far? What are your marlins? And how are you dealing with your own too far? As we're talking about this, something else is coming to mind. It's not just about Santiago's resilience or what the marlin represents. There's something almost spiritual about how he connects with nature. He doesn't just see the marlin as something he has to beat. He admires its strength, its beauty, its nobility.
You're right. There's a deep respect for nature all through the story. It's not about controlling nature, but about finding our place in it, seeing how everything is connected.
It's like he sees himself in the marlin in a way.
Exactly, like looking in a mirror. The marlin's strength shows Santiago's own strength. Its determination reflects his own. And that shared struggle, that back and forth, it makes him feel connected, like more than just predator and prey.
And you see that same respect, that connection in how he interacts with the birds, the flying fish, even the shark.
He sees them as companions on this journey of life and death. It speaks to a deeper understanding of nature, realizing the balance of the ecosystem.
I think that's something we can all learn from. In a world where we often feel separate from nature, it's a reminder to slow down, to really notice, to appreciate the beauty and power of the world around us.
And to recognize the vulnerability in all living things, ourselves included, Santiago's journey, his struggles. They remind us that we are all part of something bigger.
Okay, so we've talked about resilience, about symbolism, about our connection to nature, but I keep coming back to that ending. I went out too far. What do you think it means for us, the listeners? How can we use that in our own lives?
That's the key question, isn't it? Going too far can mean different things for different people. It might mean pushing ourselves past our physical limits, taking on too much, or even neglecting our own well-being to reach a goal.
So how do we find that balance? How do we know when we're pushing ourselves in a good way versus going too far?
I think it starts with knowing ourselves, paying attention to our bodies, our minds, our feelings, listening to those little voices that tell us when to rest, when to step back, when to ask for help.
It's like Santiago ignoring the pain in his hands, pushing himself, even though there were warning signs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all have those warning signs, those alarms that go off when we're pushing too hard. The key is to learn to recognize and listen to those signals.
So going too far isn't always a bad thing. It's about finding that balance between pushing ourselves and knowing our limits.
Exactly. And sometimes going too far can be how we grow. It can be what forces us to discover what we can really do to break through the limits we set for ourselves.
And even if we don't achieve our goals exactly how we planned, the journey itself can change us.
Absolutely. It's in those tough moments, those moments of going too far, that we often learn the most about ourselves, about what we're really made of.
So as we finish up this deep dive into the old man and the sea, I want to leave you with this. Embrace the challenges. Push yourself beyond your comfort zone. But remember to listen to yourself to find that balance between striving and letting go. And as you find your own too far, may you find the same courage, resilience, and respect for life that Santiago shows us. Until next time, keep diving deep.